For the 9th video in the series, Critical Thinking in the Bible, I want to begin by showing you a photograph. Looking at this child, it's evident that he, at some time or another, has either been spanked himself, or in the least, has seen it happen to another child. How do we know this? Well, it just seems unlikely that a toddler would decide, entirely of his own initiative, to remove the panties from a doll and strike it on the buttocks with an open hand in a way so very reminiscent of an adult spanking a child. And we've probably all seen children at some time or another incorporate spanking into their play. Unfortunately, play spanking isn't the only way in which the practice affects children's behavior. Numerous psychological studies have shown that children who are spanked are more likely to resort to violence themselves than are those who weren't spanked. And it's obvious why. Children learn much of their behavior from observation, and if adults have used violence or threats of violence in order to coerce them, then when they're dealing with other children, they're likely to resort to the same tactic. Even as adults, those who were spanked as children may have an increased tendency to resort to violence than those who were never spanked. There are other psychological issues that accompany the practice that I won't get into in this video, simply because they're too extensive. But for these reasons and others, in much of the developed world, spanking has fallen out of favor. Yet there are exceptions. Specifically, in areas in which religion still plays an important role in people's lives, spanking continues. The reason would seem to be this right here. Specifically, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, parents are directly instructed to beat their children with rods. And to a Bible believer, it would seem that something that's written in the Bible is a message directly from God, and the believer would be unwise to disregard it. But is this true? Well, let's consider a few other aspects of the family life of the man who gave this instruction. According to the Bible's own admission, King Solomon, who is said to have written the book of Proverbs, was a polygamous slaveholder. In fact, he had 700 wives and 300 sex slaves. You've probably heard of sex slaves called concubines, but in reality, what a concubine is a slave which is held for sexual purposes. It seems unlikely that any of us would want to recreate Solomon's family life. So, we can ask ourselves, if a polygamous slaveholder gives us direction for how to raise our families, and over the course of following centuries, evidence and common sense tell us that that advice, when followed, is harmful, should we conclude that the advice was actually being given to us by a wise and loving Creator? Or could it be that it was simply the opinion of that man?